Welcome to Ask the Experts on City News 570. I'm James Sebastian Scott, filling in for Brock Greenhalgh. Today, I'm joined by Faisal Susiwala. Faisal is ranked among the top 3 real estate brokers in the world for REMAX and was recently named Canada's top agent for 2022. Faisal began his career at 18 years old and has been providing outstanding results to clients for more than 30 years, most notably with REMAX Twin City Realty. Faisal is here today to talk about the recent Bank of Canada decision to raise interest rates by 25 basis points and many more topics along the way, and to give you some more information on real estate terms that you need to know as well. Welcome back to the show, Faisal.
Thank you for having me on, James.
So if you're interested in any of the information that is provided today, you can reach out to Faisal. You can start your journey at homeshack.com, and you can also call him directly 519-624-5555 or by email at faisal@homeshack.com. Faisal, thanks again for joining us today to talk about the real estate market here. So I guess just to start, what's kind of the market update for us here that you have put together for us today?
So, we've had a very strong first half of year. It started strengthening right after the Bank of Canada early this year announced that they would not be raising interest rates. And when that happened, all of that pent-up demand that was in the market started flooding the market. Buyers who were sitting on the sidelines decided, well, this is good news. So remember, the rates didn't go down. They just stayed stable, which sent a positive message out to the marketplace, which created appreciation up to 15% in our local marketplace on real estate values. From November of last year to May of this year, we were up 15% on the average price of a home. Now, of course, that started declining as soon as June rolled around and there was a 0.25% increase in the market. Then we had an adjustment again. But the market sentiment's been very positive up to now. There's a little bit of fear mongering that's going on with, rates and what's going to happen coming into the fall and that type of thing. But we saw that, whenever there is something that happens in the marketplace, the first action is to pause. And that pause creates pent-up demand, which then creates an influx of buyers, which creates that vicious cycle of bidding wars and home selling for well above asking price. And even as early as yesterday, I sold a home for $215,000 over its asking price. So it's not that buyers are not out there. It's not that sellers are not selling. They're making far more thoughtful decisions than they were making back in, the wild times of COVID. But we're still seeing the demand is there because there's such a shortage of housing in our marketplace, and that's going to continue increasing. So generally, the market has been very, very good. We're going to continue to see some stability, maybe a little bit of softening, but nothing serious in my opinion.
You mentioned just a little bit about how the housing market has performed so far in the first half of this year. And, we saw a report that came out that, it kind of the real estate market kind of rebounded a little bit in June. So I suppose when you look at that and you look at what could potentially happen in the future, what are you seeing on your end of things on how the market is going to, I guess, stay the same or rebound or continue heating up or cooling down? Is there anything that you can share with us about that?
Well, with every 0.25% increase, my experience has taught me that we see a 2 to 3% decline in property values because the same amount of mortgage payment needs to be able to purchase. That purchasing power is now declining. So the value of the home needs to match the purchasing power. For example, if $3,500 a month was getting a $700,000 mortgage when the rates were 2.5%, when the rates are 5%, that $3,500 is not going to get a $700,000 mortgage. So the value of that home is going to have to match that. So we're seeing a lot of that happening. But on the flip side, the unintended consequences of all of this going on is that buyers are unable to buy because of the rates increasing, their payments increasing. So they're going into rental properties. Now, landlords are saying, well, my mortgage payment is going up because my renewal is coming. So So I need to charge a higher rate for the rent. So instead of $2,800, they're charging $3,000 a month for the average townhome that's out there. So there's going to be some volatility in the market. We're going to see a little bit of a dip in the market coming into the fall. There's no question about that. But that doesn't mean that there are not going to be buyers out there for your home. And it doesn't mean that there won't be inventory in the market. You just have to be out there at the right time, get the right advice, and be ready to trigger. We look back 5 years, and you never say, I'm glad I didn't buy 5 years ago. You always say, I wish I'd bought then, or I wish I'd bought more then. I wish I'd invested more in real estate back then, because it's an upward trend over the long term, and real estate buying and selling is not really a short-lived action. It's something you invest your money in, you hold. And those who are into flipping, which I'm not, and I don't encourage it either, for many reasons. You're in and out. There's very little profit margin, especially in the market today. And then you're getting taxed based on, the tax laws are changing, where you're being taxed as an income. And so you don't really have a real upside. So we will see, I think, some volatility in the market coming into the fall. But overall, real estate is still the best investment opportunity that's out there, and everybody needs a home to live in. So we're going to see the market continue to be at least stable for the next 3 months.
Faisal, you mentioned a few times that there are still buyers out there, even though there's some of that fear mongering that you mentioned, but also some of that, I guess, people being scared to get into the market at the way that the interest rates are going up now. So I guess just with the inflation and the interest rates, could you go into a little bit more detail just about what people are feeling when it comes to buying a house with interest rates going up and with inflation going up as well, driving the price up?
There's lots of frustration in the market. And this whole interest rate, Bank of Canada Act, it's a double-edged sword. So on one hand, you've got the Bank of Canada saying we need to raise interest rates because it seems to be the only tool in their toolbox is let's raise interest rates to get inflation under control. So by raising the rates last month, 0.25%, the inflation went down to 3.4%. That now gave them that confidence to say, hey, look what we're doing, it's working, so let's raise it another 0.25%. So a couple of days ago we had another increase of 0.25%, again to help curb this inflation situation. Now if they simply pause, what's going to happen is going to send a positive message out into the market that things are, now stabilizing. So let's jump back in. What will that create? More inflation. So it's a vicious cycle that we're going to be in. What they have to really attack is supply chain. What they need to attack is corporate profits, not just look at interest rates to say that's the only tool or weapon that we have to combat inflation. The other point that's frustrating buyers immensely right now is what we all remember is the stress test. That stress test came into play when interest rates were significantly lower. They were 2%. So the Bank of Canada and OFC came out with this idea, which was, I think, a good idea, and it's being implemented right now, that if you're getting a mortgage for 2%, you still need to qualify at 2% above that. So add another 2% for qualifying. You're not paying that extra 2%, but we want to know that if the rate went up to 4%, you can still afford to buy that home, and you're not going to lose your home. Well, right now, the 5-year mortgage is trending at around 6%. So at 6%, if you got to add another 2% for qualifying purposes, you're now at 8%. There's not a lot of people with average household income that are going to be able to afford an 8% mortgage rate that they need to qualify on. So I think that these rules need to start easing in order for people to be able to buy and not be forced to rent. So there's a lot of frustration in the market right now.
I'm glad you mentioned that stress test, Faisal, because I do think that people seem to forget that stress test is even implemented in that. So I guess what's your best advice for folks who are looking to get into the market for maybe the first time, who might have to go through that stress test and might forget that that's part of the process?
I think talk to your financial advisor, talk to them sooner than later, talk to them before the next increase, because there could be another increase coming in the fall. So get your rate locked in. Ask mortgage brokers for alternative financing options. There are institutions that don't need to follow stress tests, so you may qualify. Also, really look strong and hard. Do you want to lock in for a 5-year rate, or are you comfortable with a 2-year or 3-year rate? It may be an edge higher, but what that's giving you is the ability to jump out of that rate if the rates come down. In my opinion, rates will drop eventually. It could be a year and a half, it could be 2 years. The good news is that you're buying homes at a much reduced discounted value today than you would have a year ago.
Thanks for adding that on there, Faisal, for that advice for folks who are looking to get into the market. We're going to head to a break. We'll have more of Ask the Experts with Faisal Susiwala right after this commercial break. It's 570. I'm joined today by Faisal Susiwala, and we're talking about the latest market update in Waterloo region locally here, and some interest rates talk that we had in the last segment. We're moving into another segment here about popular new home sites around the region and some of the best places to buy or invest. And we're going to get some advice here from Faisal, who sees this every single day and is fielding questions from folks who are looking for those popular new home sites. So I guess start with that, Faisal. What are people mostly looking for when it comes to buying? And then we'll get into the best places to buy or invest after.
Well, one of the main advice that I'm giving to buyers right now is that don't look for your forever home. Don't look at that house that you've been dreaming of and don't bite off more than you can chew. Get your foot in the door. Yes, interest rates are higher than they were, but prices are significantly lower than they were. So look at the opportunities that are out there, both in resale and in new. Now, you mentioned new, and with the new home sites, you have to be very careful. You have to make sure that the builder or the developer that is promoting the site, number one, has now aligned their values to what the new prices are. So when we look back at February of 2022, the average 2,000 square foot home had hit a value of around $1.3 million. And a builder would sell that same home for $1.4 million. So granted, $100,000 more, but you got a fresh new home, you pick your colors and whatnot. Builders' costs were significantly higher last year because material costs had tripled, quadrupled, supply chain was an issue, getting labor was an issue. So there was a lot of cost that was added on to that. Now we look at the average 2,000 square foot home, it's hitting around $1 million. So it's dropped $300,000. I don't believe, and I could be wrong on this, that a builder had $300,000 margin in his or a profit built into that home that they were selling in 2022. So they may drop $100,000. So now there's a major gap between resale and brand new. So walking into a brand new home site today, you may not get the right value. Now, granted, there are sites that are out there that are brand new where the builders have adjusted, and we're promoting several sites right now as we speak where we've seen those adjustments happen. One is Viva, which is in Kitchener off of Queen Street on Mill Street. Stacked townhome starting at $375,000. That's phenomenal. It's a 1-bedroom. And my philosophy is get into the game, don't sit on the sidelines, because you're not going to score at all if you're sitting on the sidelines. And even if it's just buying that first home, even if you're not going to move in, buy it, rent it out, because we do know that rents are extremely high right now. Population growth is occurring. There isn't enough homes out there in the market to meet the demand. So we know that there's going to be value, and that may become your first home. That may become a forever investment property for you. It may become a home that you can downsize to later on. So that's an awesome site that I'm very confident that will do well, especially because the builder has adjusted the values to today's market. They're not still trying to get 2022 prices, because resale homes are not getting that. The other one is Arbor Park, which will be coming out in hopefully the next month and a half to 2 months, which is at Westmount and Northfield in Waterloo. And they're also stacked townhomes, and they're starting in around that $400,000 mark as well, close to the LRT, close to the university, close to the expressway. So these are all phenomenal sites that keep an eye on my website, homeshack.com, and I'll be introducing these sites that'll be hitting the market soon. So those those are some options that you should look at, but don't discount resale. Resale homes are fantastic. There's good opportunities. You may get something with an in-law suite that you can rent out, which is a mortgage helper. And let's face it, today we have to look at, multiple streams of income to make ends meet. And if it means that you need to buy a duplex instead of that home with a white picket fence around it, then so be it. But don't wait until the market is increasing again. And it's that herd mentality that's going to hurt you. When you say, well, nobody's buying, so I won't buy, that's not a great idea. Don't follow the trends. In fact, I've always succeeded when I didn't follow the trends, and I recommend that. And of course, I'm happy to have these conversations with your listeners to guide them properly, because every situation is different, and we can cater their purchase to their needs.
I wanted to just jump in on a few of those conversations there, because I think it's important to kind of expand on. So first off, you're right. I think we're in an area where we do need multiple streams of income to make ends meet. So when people or folks are looking at potentially getting into the market, but not really buying to live in, what's their reaction when you say that to them? They might be renting from someone else, and they're suddenly investing in a rental property themselves instead of living in a home themselves that they might get a mortgage on.
So my advice is, you're investing, and whether you want to believe it or not, your home is your investment. In fact, it's the best investment because it's capital tax free. But I'll give you a great example. My son goes to Western University. I had no interest in buying a property in London, Ontario, so I'm renting a property for him in London. But to offset my rent there, I bought a property in the region of Waterloo where I collect rent on that property, which pays for the rent there. So similarly, what I'm saying is, you may be renting right now because you can't really afford to go out and buy the house and pay the mortgage and whatnot. But if you can buy a rental property or duplex property, and you've got enough rental income coming in to offset your rent, you're still in the game. You're not on the sidelines, and you're participating in the appreciation of that home. So that's where you're going to come out ahead in a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year timeline. You could sell that property and maybe then go out and buy a principal residence for yourself.
Thanks for adding that, Faisal. I think that's important to understand for folks who might be hesitant to get into the market, who can, but they look at some of those interest rates, they look at where the market's going, and kind of get a little bit scared, even if they are renting. So I appreciate that extra insight. When it comes to what we can expect this fall in the market, is this fall still a good time to buy or sell? I know we're seeing where the market is in the summer, but where is it headed for the fall?
So let's talk about selling first of all. We've typically seen that the market is always the strongest between April and August. That's your window, typically, where you want to sell your home, because you're going to have a larger audience. You're going to have those folks from Milton, Mississauga, Brampton, Oakville, Burlington, who want to move into our region for affordability, quality of life, amenities, whatnot, but they need to get their kids into school before September. So we're going to see that influx. And let's also face it, that the GTA buyers typically bring more money, and they are bidding to buy as opposed to offering to buy. And when you offer to buy, you offer less. When you bid to buy, you bid higher. So today, right now, we've got about a 30 to 45 day runway in this selling year to maximize what you can sell your home for. So on the flip side of that, if you're buying, yes, you're going to probably pay a little bit of a premium if you're buying in this season, and you may get somewhat of a discount if you wait till the fall, but you may not have the selection. So you might be settling for a home that you're not really too keen on. And remember, it's not a short-term decision. So waiting until the fall, yes, you could get a little bit of a better deal in October, November, December. Typically, we see a 3 to 5% drop off anyways, regardless of whether or not interest rates are doing well or not doing well. So there's a lot of sort of thought that needs to go into it. What's going to create an issue this fall, in my opinion, is all of the buyers that had bought homes in 2018. They may have taken a 5-year mortgage, and their rate was 2.8 or 3.2. That 5-year mortgage is now coming up for renewal, because that 5 years is, if you bought in May, June, July, you closed August, September, chances are your renewal date is just around the corner. And that's where a lot of folks are having challenges because those rates have doubled. But it's not because the rates doubled on their original mortgage. The government came out back in 2021 and said, and Bank of Canada came out and said rates are going to remain low for a long, long time, for the foreseeable future. And here we are, 9 increases later, tripled rates. So now those folks went out and borrowed money. They bought cars, they bought cottages, they put in swimming pools, whatever we want to do, we did it because money was cheap. Well, money's not cheap anymore. 7.5% on a line of credit. If you took that, now you're blanketing or you're wrapping that into a mortgage at renewal time. That's going to hurt. You're doubling your mortgage payments. And for a lot of folks, that's just not sustainable. So we're going to see, in my opinion, some issues coming into the fall where people simply cannot afford to be in the homes they're in.
I guess that's a really good setup for our next segment, where we'll have Ajay Sharma come in and try to explain to us just kind of, what people can expect with some of those mortgages as well, and what to do at renewal. I know you mentioned that, those interest rates back 5 years ago were fairly low. So now, the people could be sweating to renew their mortgage just because of the doubling in interest rates. So we'll head to a break first. This is Ask the Experts on City News 570. I'm here with Faisal Susiwala, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Ask the Experts on City News 570. I'm James Sebastian Scott, filling in for Brock Greenhalgh, who is on vacation. Joining me today on the show is Faisal Susiwala, and we have our special guest Ajay Sharma joining us as well. He's a lawyer from Guelph, from Elevate Law Group. Thanks so much for joining us, Ajay.
Thanks for having me, James.
So Ajay, just I guess start with just a little bit of an introduction of yourself and
Sure.
what you do on a daily basis when it comes to homes in the region and in and around Guelph.
Thank you. Yeah, so we are specialists in wills and estates and corporate commercial and residential real estate and commercial real estate. We make sure that our clients are represented to the best, to the full extent of our service offering. So on closings, 99% of the closings go well. There's 1%, there's always a little bit of hiccups, whether it's the seller not doing what they're supposed to do, with the purchaser not doing what they're supposed to do. So we work with I think hopefully well with all our other lawyers in town and the people that we deal with to come up to successful resolutions, and we try protecting our clients. So if you're purchasing, we make sure that the selling home on title doesn't have any title defects, such as liens or CRA liens or anything that would affect your ownership of the home and the bank's mortgage on the home. And so that's what we do.
Well, thanks for that introduction, Ajay. And I know that we'll definitely get into some conversation around how you can help as well. So I wanted to get started on title insurance, because I know that's likely something that, if you are going to be buying a home, you will have to do that as well. So just start about what title insurance is and how you can kind of inform our listeners here.
Yeah, so title insurance is it's a premium that you pay when you purchase the house. It's a one-time premium, and it covers you for the life of the house. So it goes to basically title defects. And I'll give some examples of that. So for example, let's say a fraudster takes out a mortgage on your house, or transfers title to someone else they're not supposed to have title. So we're seeing that a lot these days. You see those news articles where someone creates fake IDs and goes to a lawyer and is able to successfully sell your home without any knowledge to you. So title insurance will cover the expense to get your home back in your name and remove any fraudulent mortgages. That's one thing. Unpaid taxes is another one. So property taxes. Our firm has a mandate that we always order a tax certificate for the purchase and sale, because that gives us a snapshot of what taxes are, how much has been paid, and so on and so forth. So we don't run into this issue a lot, but it does happen time to time where there's tax arrears. So what happens with that is the title insurance will come in, pay off the tax arrears, and then go after the selling party to clear all that up. Another one is open permits on the property. So for example, if the previous owner of the house got some work done in the basement, or made some renovations, and they didn't get any permits, and the city comes knocking, title insurance will not only work with you and the city to rectify any of the issues, but also bear the expense to getting your house up to the city's standards. The other one is, for example, let's say your garage is over your property line, and your neighbors want it removed or moved, and your neighbors come knocking. Again, title insurance will swoop in. They'll take care of the expense of moving the structure and make it right. Another one is liens for unpaid work. So this is a big one as well. Let's say you get a big nice pool installed out in the backyard, and the previous owner forgot to pay or did not pay the pool company for the installation, and there's a lien register on your house. Title insurance will again then jump in and help you get the lien removed, pay off the lien, get the title defect on your house rectified, and you're on your way. So it's a small. Sorry, go ahead, Faisal.
Yeah, I had a couple questions. Just for so if you're buying a home, I'm assuming you would not be aware of these items. If you were made aware of it, then you can count on title insurance, I'm assuming.
That's right. So exactly. So if it comes to these are things that are unaware to us. So for example, as lawyers, if we knew there was tax arrears, and we didn't get an undertaking from the other lawyer to pay these off, we would title insurance would, I don't know if they would help us, but we would definitely try. That's our responsibility to make sure, again, like all the tax arrears and everything are paid up. There's no CRA liens. If there is a CRA lien and we missed it, the lawyers missed it, then again, that falls to us, not necessarily title insurance. And the other thing, title insurance, most often we get, what does title insurance not cover? So for example, if you walk into the house and the kitchen's missing or the appliances are missing, title insurance does not cover any of that. Okay, it covers only things that go to title, which title is the legal document that shows that the house is under your name and there's a mortgage registered under your name on that house.
One other thing that you mentioned and we're most concerned about, especially with a lot of our senior clients, is they may have bought a home in a time that title insurance didn't exist or wasn't required by a mortgage company. And I know it's been required for a long time. And their home is paid off now. So what happens in the case that their home is paid, they don't have title insurance? Is this something that they can add later on in time, or should they add title insurance?
You can add title insurance if your house is paid off. A lot of people, if they have a paid off house and they refinance a house, at that time we have to get title insurance as well. So it'd be a good addition. It'd be something to speak to your lawyer about and see if it fits your needs and if it makes sense to add it later on.
And how expensive is it to add it later on, or even at the time that you buy a home with?
So it depends on the purchase price or the refinance price of your house. Example is, today I think I was doing we saw title insurance. It was about as a purchase of a $940,000, and title insurance is about just under about $1,100. Again, it's a small price to pay for peace of mind.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Faisal, when it comes to title insurance, and you have clients who are looking to buy a house, and the topic of title insurance comes up, where it's an extra cost. How do you approach that conversation with clients who may not know that title insurance might be something that's really important in the process of purchasing a home?
Well, I make a point of letting my buyers know, like, generally what things in addition to the purchase price they're going to have to pay for land transfer tax, legal fees, title insurance, all those things. But I always refer to the solicitor to give them an outline, and AJ's really good at that. He gives them a right exact amount, so there's no surprises, right down to what's applicable as far as HST, what the land transfer tax is going to be. And as AJ said, there is no sort of average cost. It's based on the purchase price, so we can't really quote that out. So it's always good to talk to your lawyer, ask them those questions. And what I like about what AJ does is that he gives a complete price. This is what it's going to cost you, and there's no surprises at the end. And that's where we as realtors, and I'm sure nobody likes that last minute phone call saying this is like way more than I was expecting to pay. So get all your information, do your due diligence ahead of time, and that's, so I always refer that back to the lawyer to give those answers.
And AJ, for you, when it comes to clients that you're working with and title insurance comes up, is there a one-stop shop where they can get this type of information before they even contact you, so they're well aware of something that they need to add to their process?
Yeah, so every lawyer deals with different. There's a number of title insurance companies out there, from FCT, Stewart Title, Chicago Title. There's a number of them, and it's every lawyer deals with different a different title insurance provider. So for what they can do is, if they want to learn more about it, they can either speak to their lawyer, and the lawyer can provide some verbiage around, and some pamphlets around, or digital brochures around what title insurance is, what it covers, so on and so forth. Alternatively, they can do their own research, and just hop online and look at the different providers of title insurance and what they offer and what makes everyone, they all cover generally the same thing. Each, obviously, insurance provider has their own little tweaks, but 99% they cover the exact same thing.
Thanks for both of you for taking some time to talk about title insurance. We're going to head to a break. And just after the break, we're going to talk about power of sale and conditions and offers that buyers should be putting into an agreement. So we'll talk about all that right after the break, right here on Ask the Experts on City News 570. Welcome back to Ask the Experts on City News 570. I'm James Sebastian Scott, filling in for Brock Greenhalgh. Joining me is Faisal Susiwala and Ajay Sharma. We'll continue our conversation today just about power of sale. So when it comes to that, Faisal, what do people need to know about that? And is it something that people can buy under when it comes to power of sales?
So power of sales is something, it's almost a term that we forgot about. For the last 10 years, I don't recall ever being involved in a power of sales situation. However, unfortunately, in the last 3 to 4 months, I've had to list 3 homes that have been under power of sale. And that's primarily where, the bank takes the power to sell the property, and AJ is the right guy on our panel here today to explain how that ends up happening. So I'll turn it over to AJ, and AJ, maybe you can just tell us, how does somebody end up going under power of sale?
So power of sale essentially basically means is that you have defaulted on your mortgage or mortgage terms. You've done something to either make the bank or the lender upset, and you can't remedy the situation. So what they do is the first step is essentially that you can't pay your mortgage or the loan. The second step is the lender or the mortgage company will deliver a notice to you saying, hey, listen, you haven't paid the mortgage in 3 months, 4 months. We're giving you a chance to catch up and make good on your payments and remedy the situation. If you're not able to do that as well, the bank will have to go through the court process and get legal permission to then basically chain the locks on your door and have you removed from the house and put it up for sale to sell and then recoup their money that way. So that's essentially the process. It's unfortunate. It's a long process. It's a difficult and expensive one as well, but it happens time to time, and it's just unfortunately one of those things that you have to bear in mind when you purchase a home.
Are you seeing a lot of that right now, AJ?
Yeah, we're not seeing a ton of it right now. We haven't seen a ton of it. Like I said, I'm hoping we don't see it. It's not something we rather see. We would like to avoid that situation, but I'm sure it is happening. Like you mentioned yourself, Faisal, you're putting some for power of sales on now. So yeah.
Yeah, and I'm finding you're not necessarily, the idea of a power of sale is a little bit misleading, because people think, oh, it's power of sale, I'm going to get a fantastic deal on this home.
Yeah.
It actually, typically, it's not a fantastic deal, and there's a lot of risk associated with it. And correct me if I'm wrong, AJ, but first of all, as soon as the home goes power of sale, you get sort of the vultures are out there trying to get the best possible deal, but they don't realize they sometimes overpay for it.
Absolutely.
No warranties that come
no
along.
reps and warranties. It's as is, where is. So you can walk into the house, and usually, unfortunately, sometimes that's what happens, right? You buy a power of sale, and the people that have lived there, the family that live there, are leaving in a very unfortunate situation, and they are not happy about leaving. So they will, they won't be nice when they're moving out. They won't be. They won't take any protection or precautions moving out, so they'll probably bash up the walls and the kitchen and so on and so forth. But as a power of sale, you're buying as is, where is, which basically means that there's no reps and warranties. If the drains are all clogged up, again, your headache. If the appliances don't work, your headache. If there's no kitchen, your headache. So like Faisal said, like the vultures will swoop in pretty quickly, but it's not that I would say lucrative if people are thinking they'll get away with the steal.
So when it comes to power of sale, then AJ and Faisal, you can jump in on this too. What's your best advice on how to approach a situation like this? Because it almost seems like that you guys mentioned it's not really all that lucrative, and it's an unfortunate situation. So you could end up having to pay more money out of pocket to fix some things potentially. So how do you kind of approach the advice on that?
Well, don't automatically assume that power of sale is going to be a great deal. And
Yeah.
also, AJ, correct me if I'm wrong. Um, am I right to say that the person who lost the home has the right to redeem or take that house back right up until closing date?
Yeah, yeah. If they can remedy the situation and pay off, the banks and the mortgage company, and we've seen it, and we've done some of that. So we've been representing some parties where they're just at the brink of changing the locks, and they're able to speak to a trusted advisor like Faisal, who has many great contacts, and Faisal's able to advise them, hey, you speak to this person or that person, and they're able to, and Faisal, or someone may be able to save their house for them. And we've been in situations like that where I remember not even 3 months ago, 4:55 p.m. RBC was at the waiting at the bank to just to get it done, and we were able to save this gentleman's house, and it was a great feeling. It's a great feeling.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think buyers need to be aware of. That you may have your truck ready, packed, ready to move in, and the person who lost the home still has the right to redeem or take back as long as they make good on whatever they owe the lender. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So on top of your catching up on your mortgage payments, the lender would, if you've defaulted, the lender would probably require you pay their entire loan out. And for that, you would get a refinance done. Then there will also be a lot of legal fees added to that because it's as a result of your actions that the bank has to take certain steps to go to court and start the power of sale process. So those costs are borne by you as well. And so it's not only just catching up on your mortgage or paying them out completely. It's the added legal costs that come with that process to get your home back.
Yeah, and I'd like to just jump in on one example of that. In fact, AJ and I were involved in a deal, I think just before Christmas, where someone was about to go out power of sale, and AJ was able to speak to the lender, get some additional time. We were able to make good on a little bit of the payments on behalf of that seller because there was lots of equity. So my advice to sellers is that don't just give up. Look at the options that you have at hand and reach out to professionals that can negotiate on your behalf.
And on the flip side of that too, I think Faisal and AJ, what kind of position does that put the buyer in a situation like this when it comes to being able to save someone's house on the brink of a power of sale? It clearly puts them in an awkward position too, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the buyer is more concerned with just being able to buy that house, right? But I think it's important that the buyer understand the risks that they're taking on. That there's no warranty. They could be buying a lemon. The bank is not going to warrant anything to them, and they still run the risk of that person who lost the home could redeem it before the closing date.
Yep.
Thanks for adding that in, Faisal. I appreciate that too. AJ, is there a final thought on that?
Like I said, we haven't seen too much of it. I hope we don't see too much of it. It's an unfortunate situation, I think, for everyone that's going through the process. But it is just it's one of those things about owning a house. It can happen, and it just yeah. Those are the final thoughts on that.
I want to transition now to conditions and offers that buyers should put into agreements. So, what's the advice that you both would give to people about conditions right now?
Well, I'll just jump in the beginning here. So conditions are a tricky thing, especially when you're buying a home and you're dealing in a multiple offer situation where you're competing to buy. At that point, if you're conditional on financing, on inspection, on the sale of your home, it really reduces your chances of buying that house or winning that offer. Even if your offer is higher, but you have several conditions in your offer, it's unlikely that the seller is going to choose your offer over the other. But there are also clauses that are very important to add into an agreement of purchase and sale. And I'm sure AJ comes across this all the time where you're probably looking at an offer saying, well, you should have put the stigma clause in there, or, pay out your leased items clause in there. So maybe AJ can jump in on clauses that buyers should really insist on having in offers.
Yeah, I think it's a very different market than 2, 3 years ago, and Faisal can attest to that. 2, 3 years ago, any conditions would have been sort of your offer would have been sort of thrown away. Today, the conditions are back. It's just that type of market now with the mortgage rates and the changing landscape of the real estate world today. And there are some conditions that do protect you, such as a financing condition. If you're buying a condo, status certificate review. Again, like Faisal said, so if there's an AC unit that has been provided by, there's a lien on the property because you purchase an AC unit, and that needs to be sort of removed from title. So things of that nature. Again, that's what lawyers are here for. We look to title to see what it is that needs to be removed and needs to be kept there. For example, like I just said, if there's a notice of security interest, we'll ask the other lawyer to have that removed, and that's a standard clause in most purchase agreements. On the sales side, really not much. I think the purchase side is where most of the liability is in terms of of the clauses and the most protections afforded to the purchasers on that side.
Just going to go back to you on that, Faisal. Just about what's your best advice, I guess, when it comes to conditions right now in this market?
I think there's certain, not so much conditions, but you almost want some warranties. So conditions can be tricky. If you're not competing, absolutely put the inspection clause in there. If you are competing, try to get the inspection ahead of time or get a report ahead of time. So get ahead of all of those things. If you're buying a home and you're not sure of the financing, make sure you've got a pre-approval at the very minimum, and ensure that the banker has pulled your credit, knows that you qualify, that there's no skeletons in your closet that they're going to discover after the fact. But things like, conditional sales contracts know about that. Ask the seller about hidden defects. And AJ, correct me if I'm wrong, but if a buyer doesn't ask about hidden defects, is the seller obligated to disclose defects of their home? Because it's really a gray area.
It is a very gray area. We get this all the time. For example, we just did a closing last week, and they were removing the flooring, and there was mold found. And the purchasers, our clients, called us and said, "Hey, AJ, we're removing the flooring, we're doing reno, we found mold. Is there anything we can do about this?" And it's tough. It's a tough conversation to have, because you would have to prove that the seller knew about the mold and then purposely did everything in their power to hide the mold, so you wouldn't find it. How do you go about proving that? You'd have to go through litigation, and it's a very expensive and long process to prove something like that. But it's one of those things, caveat emptor, which basically means buyer beware. So when you're buying a house, you have to understand that the risk involved with it. You have to understand that there may be some issues that was not known to the seller or the purchaser, even after an inspection. For example, things behind walls, things under the flooring. These things are hard to detect and find unless you do a very invasive inspection, which the seller will not like, or the seller's agent or the lawyer will not like as well. If you start drilling walls and trying to see what's behind the wall, or start drilling holes in the floor, and then you walk away from the deal, I don't think anyone's going to be very particularly happy about that.
Gentlemen, thanks so much. I think we could probably talk about this a lot longer in depth, but thanks so much for taking the time to inform us about some of these issues. We had Faisal Susiwala joining us on Ask the Experts, as well as our special guest here, Ajay Sharma. Ajay is a lawyer from Guelph with Elevate Law Group. And of course, if you're interested in any of the information that was shared on the program today, you can always reach out directly to Faisal. You can call him at 519-624-5555 or by email at faisal@homeshack.com. And Faisal, your website is homeshack.com as well. So thanks so much to everyone for listening to Ask the Experts today. And thanks to my two guests for sharing all of the information that we shared in this full hour of the program.
Thank you very much for having us on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.